Hello, everyone. Good evening. So here I am today talking to you about the NLAT 2020 paper, which happened earlier during the day. As we all know, this paper happened in 3 slots. And of course, the initial responses, which I have also posted from my social media handles, have not been very encouraging. In fact, we were to host this analysis earlier, but all of us, including me, were battling to help students who were unable to write their paper, were trying to help them with technical glitches which they were facing. And there was a whole lot of stress all throughout the day, as you can see. I still haven't come out of that stress. So yes, it has been not one of the best days in our lives where the papers have been conducted smoothly, to say the least. A tough paper is one thing, where all the candidates feel that the paper was unnecessarily tough. But a paper which many candidates were not even able to write is another thing altogether, which, when piled on to a time when all of us are already stymied by this massive pandemic, just adds on to so many woes in our lives. So, the stress of waiting for hours and hours for the screen to shift, for hours and hours for the screen to move on to the next page, for an assessment to start, that stress I have lived through with all my students today, at least those who were not able to write the test and they kept sharing their screen, they kept calling, they were helpless. So it is my humble request to the authorities to definitely look into this matter. It is a really sincere request. It is a request coming from a mentor of students who have worked very hard for 2 years, 1 year, or even 6 months. All this time they have put in preparing for these papers. They really respect this opportunity to be able to write a paper and move on into the college of their choice. If the college does not accept them based on their performance, that's fair. But if a child is not even able to write and prove whether the child deserves the college or not, is not something which is acceptable. So while I am talking to you today, NLS Bangalore has already shared an answer key, uh, which one would believe is a fair process. But the only problem is that all 3 slot passages have been clubbed into one key, and the key looks like just numbers with some answers. Naturally, none of the candidates remember which question was one, which question was two, even if they remember what they marked as their answers. Most answer keys, when they are released with the slot paper and the key for that slot with the question paper. But an answer key which just comes with numbers, with not even questions, is something which students won't be able to work with or even be able to raise any concerns with respect to an answer. So again, I request the authorities to release an answer key which can be worked with, where any grievances with answers can be raised before the merit list is created. And more importantly, all those papers, all the students who were not able to log in, who were not even able to start their assessment, and many students who soon after verification, when they went onto their page, it said the test is completed because the test time slot was completed. That is not something which is completely acceptable. These students spent a very harrowing day and probably are going to spend a sleepless night. These may just be figures for a big college like Bangalore. These may just be figures which can be easily brushed aside because 93% is what is the success rate of NLAT as claimed by the college. But this 7% is not just a number. Each of these students that constitute this 7%, if the figures are correct, which I'm assuming they are, then each of these students is one flesh and body, bones and a hope and a desire, and a person who rightfully deserves to take this exam. So I can only hope that this urge, this plea reaches the right authorities and we are able to move forward with the feeling of satisfaction that yes, at least we tried. So moving on to that, and of course there were lots and lots of other glitches. Many students have been sharing their experiences through videos. I have been constantly sharing all that data on my social media handles, hoping that it reaches the right place, the right ears, and they are heard. It is not mere slander. It is not. It is not in any way to put down an attempt. It is only shared so that it reaches the right place and help is rendered wherever it is needed. Right. So with that, we come on to those candidates who were able to successfully take the paper. And we spent some time on this analysis to tell you what all the paper constituted, what type of questions were asked, was it similar to the paper that was released by the NLAT body, and what are the cutoffs that uh, are expected at the end of today's 3-session paper that was conducted, called NLAT 2020, which is the first paper of its kind, not just in terms of how the paper pattern was, but also because this is the first time, once Clat has formed, that uh, the, the one of the top colleges, NLS Bangalore, has decided to move out and conduct its own paper. So there is slot 1 in this paper. This slot 1 uh, had passages on these 4 things. There was a forest reserve passage, which is that the forest reserve is problematic for us. The government strategy to impact COVID-19 in agriculture, right? That was the second passage. Women's right in property and how it empowers them according to the Hindu Amendment Act of 2005. And the fourth passage was how a specific event hampers the poor and the rich are left apart. So these were the 4 passages that came in slot 1. Slot 1, like every other slot which we shall see today, had very tough and tricky GK. Mainly GK questions were little, disparate from what the students were expecting. Mostly students who prepare for National Law School exams or any law entrance test prepare for current events, and that's what is or has been asked over the years. However, the GK of the NLAT 2020 had questions that I do not know whether would go into static knowledge or current knowledge, but a vague sort of knowledge, which is who is the finance secretary of India's largest trading partner. Now, this is extremely specific information, mind you. So something like this was the feature of GK in all the 3 slots, but definitely in slot 1, that was pretty tough and really tricky. And many students claimed that they failed to attempt uh, most questions in GK. Critical reasoning. Critical reasoning. So I might congratulate the question making body that yes, the questions in critical reasoning were relevant. There were standard questions. Standard questions are always relevant and the best to ask in any entrance test. A, because these standardized questions keep the students' faith in the system. And B, standardized questions are always easy to mark and score. And there are standard answers, which are always better to have than vague and lopsided questions. So the questions were on strengthen, weaken. There was also an assumption question. So standardized CR, which is the best thing to have. English was also of a good level. And as I said, it is neither tough nor easy, one could say, if you are well prepared. There were again standardized questions, 1 grammar question in all the 4 passages. That makes it 4 grammar questions, questions on central theme, inference. So these are again good questions to have. And as expected, NLS did give in good questions in English and CR. Legal was again not extremely tough. Questions in the first slot ranged from Hindu Amendment Act to foreign diplomacy. So a whole wide range of questions has been asked in legal across the 3 slots. And, you know, uh, in all the 3 slots, legal has been from easy to medium. So the good thing about the 3 slots is that one can say that score normalization will not reveal huge variations. because the level of the paper in the three slots has mostly been alike. Maths, as always, as not as always, but maths as was given in the NLAT sample paper was something which definitely foreshadowed the maths in the actual paper. In all the three slots, their maths was lengthy, involving a lot of calculations. So what happened was that once a student got caught in it, that student lost a lot of time. So eventually, what students did where in the math section was that they started skipping the questions, because anyway, the question took almost a minute or more to even sort of comprehend and start getting your working in it, right? So many students who were good with maths spent some time in a couple of questions in the beginning, but then realized that they should not be losing this time because they'll lose the last passage. So as a result, some students skipped maths questions, attracting that minus 0.25 negative marking. And what happened was that some students also came back and said that they were left with 3 to 4 minutes. So they were able to submit the paper early because this paper did not allow you to go back to any question. These, I think, these moves were actually kept to prevent cheating. So once you have done the question, you have to mark an answer and then move on, and you can't go back to it. So reviewing, which is a tool of aptitude testing, was curtailed in this paper. There was no option to review. In fact, if you did not even attempt a paper, which is again, choosing not to answer a question is one of the strategies of an aptitude test, because this involves decision making. Here, a candidate is supposed to either take the plunge and mark the answer or even skip it. Skipping it allows the candidate to attract a 0 mark, but taking the plunge in aptitude testing attracts negative marking. So this is also used as a strategy by candidates to reduce their negative marking. However, this paper did not allow you to even skip. Now, I do not know why this was included. We could have easily allowed the candidate to not answer any question and maybe curtail the review feature in order to curtail cheating, because this is a home exam. That is understandable, but forcing them to answer each and every question was something which I could not fathom. So what they did was that students did not want to waste time. Now naturally, some of them just marked anything, others left it, and as a result they also realized that they were left with about 39 they were able to complete the paper in about 39 to 41 minutes. Now, 2 to 3 minutes in a paper like this is very precious. So, some of them really felt horrid about it. They could have answered one maths question, but at that time they decided not to, because, as you see, decision making was to move on and not waste time in maths, because maths showed the same trend of having very, very lengthy calculations. And of course, the topics you can see are percentages and compound interest. Slot 2 passages ranged from women leaders to environment to national education policy. Naturally, these are all current topics. Students were very, very comfortable. All these topics across the board, 2020 and 2019 has not given us a dearth of any topics. Making mocks at Clat possible was delightful because there were so many issues you could talk about, and all these topics have been covered in at least one or two mocks, if not more. So since Clat also changed its pattern and it was all reading based, passage based, students have been practicing passage based questions from November onward. As we all know, this paper changed it a little bit, because in one passage, this paper asked questions from all the sections. Now, now that's a big change. That's a big overhaul. I've spoken about it earlier as well. And this overhaul just means that, you really need to tweak your strategy a little bit. And of course, the time is drastically reduced from 2 hours to 45 minutes. Many students before the paper did claim that, 45 minutes is what they take to warm up by doing two favorite sections in Clat. So here you have to do everything in the beginning. But the good thing is that since students have been taking mocks, they have been writing our mocks. We've given almost 60 plus mocks since the Clat new pattern has been announced, and as a result, reading is not one of the things that I think posed a problem to any candidate in this exam. So these topics again, common topics, current topics. That's a good thing. And as I repeated, GK has been really tough in terms of the fact that it has asked questions that that are neither here nor there. Who all are educationists is probably a question that could have been answered because of public figures. The first chairman of the Imperial Bank of India, right? So, author of Opium War book. We are trying to compile all the GK questions and give you answers on a separate the Word document on our website. So, do log on to clatpossible.com to get an entire update on GK and review the GK answers document. English NCR were the same as slot one with questions, one question each on grammar from every passage, which is 4 questions there, questions on inference, and in critical reasoning, standardized critical reasoning questions on strengthen, weaken assumptions, inferences, etc. Legal has been the same as slot one. Here, some candidates recalled questions on emergency provision, Art 352, Delhi passing some new laws, all principle-based passage questions. So, which is again a mercy because this is what candidates have been practicing ever since the new pattern was announced. Maths, same as the previous slot. Slot 3 passages range from the Maternity Benefit Act, GDP, economics, and environment. Now the candidate in slot 3 could not really recall which economics passage it was, but definitely an economics and an environment passage. Since the passages, first few lines and the source of passages have been released, we can have a look at all the passages now, as NLS Bangalore has released that much. GK again was little out of the blue. Uh, of course, questions like Ramchandra Guha's book could have been answered. Maybe even the comic about the menstrual health could be answered. But other than that, uh, that very vague sort of GK with very specific information that was sought has been the pattern. Uh, though candidates in slot 1 complained more about GK, so we are made to believe that slot 1 candidates had a tougher time with GK than did slot 3. However, one cannot be sure based just on feedback. English NCR have been similar, so has legal been similar. So that's a mercy, really, students, that 3 sections have maintained the type of questions and the difficulty level, and maths continued to maintain its difficulty level and the type of questions. So this is good news. Only with GK we hear a little shifty sort of thing, and that too only in terms of the feedback that students have given us. So we all know that this was 80 marks, 2 marks per correct answer, and there was half a mark, which is 0.5 marks that would be deducted for every wrong answer and 0.25 for every unanswered question that I have already told you during the course of our chatting. So this is what we sort of have given as cutoffs. Now, I know many of you are wondering about my addressing the elephant in the room, which is cheating during the paper. Unlike what people may do and push it under the carpet, I have also taken that up on my social media handles. I do not really claim the authenticity of the videos that have been, Shara, that have been uploaded by students. They do seem to be genuine, because some students, without any hassle, have claimed that they did the paper just to see how foolproof it was. So we all know there are lots of nosy parkers who want to test all waters. And yes, so that is something which is disturbing us, which is disturbing me, which is disturbing some candidates who have genuinely taken the paper. If you have seen my video from yesterday, I have really urged all candidates to not cheat. Cheating really never gets you anywhere, trust me. I'm hoping that the AI that NLAT has used is effective. So while the candidates think that they have gotten away with it, maybe the AI did flag some activity and movement which should not have happened. And this is what I want you in the video about. Now, if this AI is good and it is able to distinguish between suspicious movement and a genuine movement, then I will really be congratulating the college. However, if genuine candidates get penalized, then also it will be a tragedy. So I'm hoping that all this goes well. I really, really want to trust and believe the system. And I really do want to trust and believe the college that it is going to take serious action against towards those students who have not been able to write the paper, and also serious action against those who have resorted to unfair means and have sort of put us all in doubt, because there are lots and lots of leaked videos and photos of Google searches and downloading papers and this and that. So since it's all open, and thank God to social media, it has been shared widely. I hope it reaches the college authorities and some action is really taken there, because these colleges, these seats are someone's dreams. Some students have been dreaming about this day for years and years and years. We all know that, we all train you, we all nurture those dreams. So it's really heartbreaking to see how uh, certain actions of others and how some technology glitches here and there could actually end a dream, which has been nurtured for so long. So as you can see, the cutoffs that we have shown here, since the paper was homogeneously easy and difficult in three big sections of English, legal, and critical reasoning, mostly the serious and good candidates are going to score there a lot. Now, the final marks would depend on how many maths questions were attempted versus how many GK questions were attempted. Any tiebreakers that will happen will be there is resolution of tiebreakers would be through legal reasoning scores, but I doubt that very much. I doubt if that is really going to help, because I think the legal reasoning section will be, everyone will be at par over there. So let's see what the college authorities do. Since legal reasoning has always been the section that resolves tiebreakers, maybe it is taken up now, but I don't see any disparity in marks in legal, English, and CR, in candidates who deserve to be in NLS and in candidates who must have prepared well. So these maths and GK marks are ones that are going to decide the final set of 70, 80 kids that will make it. Same goes for the reserved seats for Karnataka candidates. And since in Bangalore, traditionally, there has been really very little difference in marks in the reserved categories versus general category, this is what, based on trends, we have declared as cutoffs. So I hope that really sort of, helps you a bit, and still waiting for a proper answer key so that we can raise grievances against any answers. We always know how subjective some answers can get. So let's hope that a proper answer key is released and we can help students raise grievances against those. I would love to connect and hear from all of you. And please write to me at surabhi@clatpossible.com. You can also write to us at help@clatpossible.com. I am on all social media, not just active on Clat, but general issues on students, etc. So please do connect with me on Facebook. I'm Surabhi Modi on Facebook. That's an old email ID, so it has my maiden name, but of course the newer ones have uh, all the have my other name as well. So Surabhi MS on Instagram, Sahai Surabhi on Twitter, or on LinkedIn. You can follow us on Clat on YouTube, or connect with us on www.clatpossible.com. Please stay tuned for all updates in the law sphere. And I will be bringing you the ALIT and the CLAT analysis very shortly as soon as those papers are held. So be sure to stay connected and keep in touch for live analysis, updates, and cutoffs. Have a great night and sleep tight, everyone. We will wake up tomorrow and hopefully there will be more good news for us. Good night.